Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another live stream. Thank you so much for everyone who's been waiting for me and everyone joining us. Let's give ourselves a minute to make sure everything's live. There's usually a slight delay when you listen to me live, but if you watch it recorded, you will see my initial sentence. I hope everyone's doing well. Here we are. Again, welcome everyone to another live stream. Thank you so much for everyone who has been waiting for me. And thank you for everyone joining us, new to the channel, new subscribers, new members, new viewers. Thank you so much for waiting. If you're new, obviously, just to let you know, these live streams are regular and they're there to obviously discuss more topics and also open the space up for everyone to participate, share their thoughts, views, ask questions, and have a platform as well. I published a previous video with that ambush that Al-Qassam brigades had in Gaza and the Israeli revenge against the civilian population, killing 30 people. This is what they do. This is what they've been doing since the beginning of this genocide. They get a beating militarily, they get humiliated, they cannot respond to the forces that actually targeted them. They go and kill people. They'll go and kill people. In this video, and that was one of the biggest ambushes, by the way, and they used an undetonated F-16 missile. They land 1-ton bombs on civilian buildings. You see children walking next to a bomb that didn't detonate. And in most cases, they did detonate. Left children in pieces. Body parts. Children going out from the rubble. Most of them dead. That's the type of entity that you're talking about. But anyway, some of them don't detonate. So Al-Qassam used them. Free weapons. So they targeted and they put a slogan, their equipment has been returned to them. They told them, their equipment has been returned to them. This was the slogan of their attack. But what I wanted to talk to you about in this live stream are actually two things. The first one is the combined attack between Al-Qassam brigades and Hizbullah from Lebanon. Very interesting development. It happened before. Usually they would target separately. Mind you, everything that happens from the south of Lebanon is approved by Hizbullah. They de facto control the south of Lebanon. Full coordination. But nevertheless, this was a significant coordinated attack from both of them. And it was probably sending a message to Israel because of their strike on Rafah, albeit a retaliatory strike, a vengeful strike, a barbaric strike, killing innocent civilians. But we're here from Lebanon too. And they targeted quality bases like Al-Qassam brigades. They attacked a place called the Gibor base. Gibor means hero in Hebrew. That's near Kiryat Shimone, a settlement in the northern part of Israel that houses the 769 Brigade, part of the Eastern Brigade, 769. They attacked it with 30 missiles. And then you had Hezbollah attacking with a further 30 missiles on Miron base. That's the air command that they targeted previously. And they also had another 2 attacks, Hezbollah, but one of them was coordinated. So they're sending Israel a message. They're operating from Lebanon. And again, like I said, everything in Lebanon, that's from coordinated in full with Hezbollah. But they're sending Israel a message. Look, if you want to continue, if you want to drag, we're here. Don't worry, we're awake. We're here for you. We're not going anywhere. And the second thing that I wanted to talk to you about before I open the space up for you and your comments and questions is the ICC again. So we're talking about arrest warrants, right? Israel is pushing really hard with all of their genocidal cartel, supporting cartel in Britain, in the US, in European countries, the big genocidal countries, much more genocidal than Israel. Let's not forget that these people, they committed atrocities. That's why they support Israel. Let no one be delusional. The people in power, the governments, what Israel to them, what Israel's doing in Gaza's peanuts, ladies and gentlemen. We talk about countries killing millions all across the world. That's why they don't mind Israel killing 34,500 Palestinians. It's like, we killed 10 million. We killed 1 million. Recently, 1 million Iraq, 1 million Afghanistan, just over 1 million. Before that, my goodness me, all the US in one go, they took 250,000 people in 2 nuclear bombs, Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And they're worried about other countries having nuclear weapons. But you're the ones who use them. We should be worried about you. You have 7,000 warheads. Can destroy the earth and the moon several times with them. But obviously they're worried, Israel, about the ICC. Why? Because supposedly, apparently some of these ICC arrest warrants will be released in secret, that they won't be published. So what's going to happen? The ICC is going to give them to the countries that they believe will enforce or not enforce as well, without telling Israel. Israel is now relying on the fact that these countries will inform them, right? So there was an article in the Israeli newspaper Ynet, the website of Yediot Ahronot. They said, an Israeli source warns it is possible that arrest warrants in The Hague, or Hague, by the way, you can call it both ways. Some people said Hague, were issued secretly and the leadership will not know. It is possible that the arrest warrants in The Hague were issued secretly and the leadership will not know. The Israeli team that handles international lawsuits warns of allowing senior officials to become aware of the warrants only when they are abroad without prior warning. According to the source, Netanyahu's people are making terrible moves against the chief prosecutor in The Hague, behaving like an elephant in a china shop. In the US, they clarify, there is no home, the law authority. Don't know what that means exactly. Anyway, must have been translated differently. There's no home for the law authority. Anyway, they continued. A source in the Israeli team, which handles international lawsuits in the Hague courts, warns that arrest warrants against the Israeli officials may have been issued secretly, and they will encounter them only when they reach European countries, without an explicit warning. The section under which the orders were issued is the easiest, the humanitarian section. The reasons will be Israeli settlements, mainly by politicians, about starvation and the denial of aid to Gazans. So it will be easier to attribute them to ministers and members of the Knesset who chatted themselves to know from the outbreak of the war. So now, not only are these people worried, they're worried that they're going to be released in secret. But don't forget, you have countries that comply. And we have a prime example of Britain. Israeli leaders were petrified of coming to Britain. Arrest warrants will be issued as soon as they land. They went and they changed the law. We were not going to enforce it. And not for diplomatic people, right? Not for genocidal, not for people who commit war crimes or kill thousands of people. Small stuff, small scale stuff, your neighborhood drug dealer or someone who wounded someone, a bit of GPH, yeah, you can go to prison. But if you commit a mass genocide with like an army and stuff, no, that's fine. And if you're called Israel, it's okay, don't worry. So it's likely that they will be assisted. However, it's still worrying though. And this is what I wanted to share with you. Let me open your questions, see if you have anything. Talal is saying, how come Saudi Arabia is sabotaging Qatar and taking over the ceasefire negotiations? I haven't heard that they're sabotaging anything to do with Qatar because they don't have an alternative, Saudi Arabia. They don't have any good relationship with the Palestinian resistance, despite the fact that, by the way, the Palestinian resistance approached them many times and they were diplomatic with them and open, and because they're criticized heavily by some Arab countries for receiving support from Iran. And their response like, we knocked at your doors anyway. You don't support us. You support the other side. What do you want us to do? Iran supports us unconditionally. So what, should we say no? Offer us an alternative. But Saudi Arabia doesn't have a relationship with Hamas similar to Qatar. Saudi Arabia cannot play that role. Egypt and Qatar can play that role. Egypt for the geographical position and their historical position with Gaza and Rafah, and Qatar for their communication. And by the way, the approval, it's with the blessing of the United States and Israel. Let's not forget that. What the luggages of money that went into Gaza, they were by Israeli approval, Benjamin Netanyahu approval, right? They thought it would be hush money. Not exactly hush money, but silence money. Okay, hush money is in a reference to sexual scandals and stuff. But let's say silence you, okay, just govern Gaza, be quiet, leave us alone. They thought that you can buy Hamas with money. Didn't work. And they had previously warned them. Hamas warned them previously. We're not here just for the money. We want our national rights. We're people who seek rights, liberation, right of return, historical rights. Israel didn't get the message. They thought they can manage the conflict, what they call it, managing the conflict, status quo. And they used to call, they have terms, they create these terms about any escalation, you know, the campaign in between campaigns and stuff, to create these delusions of safety and security in the heads of the Israeli population, who are completely ignorant to the fact that they're living in one of the worst places on earth, particularly for the Jewish people. And that's primarily because their country speaks on behalf of Judaism and acts like it is the representative of the Jewish people maliciously. So they cannot take away their role, and Qatar is most likely going to remain there as a negotiator. Imru saying, Salaam alaikum, Brother Mahmoud, doing a great job as always. Thank you so much for that. Do you trust Iran as a government? Look, I don't trust any government. I don't have trust in governments in general. My approach is always suspicion. But if someone's doing something right, regardless of my view and position and thoughts about them as a government, I'll say that's good. If they do something bad, I'll tell you that's bad. There's a lot of criticism about Iran, for example, as the interpretation of religion, particularly the 12th Shia Imami interpretation and compulsion in religion and stuff, aspects of day-to-day life that many Iranians criticize too. But that doesn't take away from the fact that they do things that are good for the Palestinians and the Palestinian resistance. And I don't have to agree with everything they do. You know, it fascinates me. Some people think you have to agree with everything. I don't have to agree with everything. If the British government now does a 180, all of a sudden starts to do good stuff, I will be the first one to say, amazing, good, great, perfect. Don't care, right, left, whatever they call themselves. So my initial thing is you don't put faith. I don't even consider myself politically aligned, by the way. But if someone's doing something right, then we say that. We say that. And it's important to, by the way, not let, number one, the hatred and the disliking of someone make you blind to everything they do, and your support, everything good they do, even if it's very little, and your love or support for someone ideologically, or make you blind to any bad things they do too. You need to be morally consistent. Taylor Samhuri, how you doing, brother? What are your thoughts on Ivy League schools in USA demanding to divest from Israeli, and how it worked in the war in Vietnam and apartheid South Africa? Any boycott movement is good, divestment, all of that is good. The protests are great. And the baffling thing here is that they're punishing the people. Police brutality, silencing, violence. You're doing it with Russia on the same pretext. An occupying force using violence, But to Zelensky, your little puppet, you will give hundreds of billions. And they, by the way, they will use the aid to go and resell some of the stuff in the black market. Let's not forget what they do, but they don't like telling you that, you know? And again, we support every people. We support the Ukrainian people, the Russian people, every people, oppressed people. We support all of them. But that wouldn't say that we support the actions, right? The hegemony attempt, really, of the United States against Russia. Simple. So that's good. It's great. And yet they're being, you know, I published an image of this old woman today. I'm not sure if she was a professor or something in this university, but police are putting her down. Woman, she looks like she's over 50, 60. Being aggressive with her, what is this? And imagine that happened in any other country apart from the United States. Where's your freedom of speech? Where's the human rights? You need to instill democracy. At the same time, Blinken was in China telling them about human rights. Look at these hypocrites. And not to say that China has the biggest, best record in human rights, right? But look at yourself in the mirror. Don't throw stones at other people when all of your building is from glass. Hypocrites. Coop, what's up with the French visit in Lebanon? Look, France is very linked with Lebanon because after the Sykes-Picot Agreement, Lebanon went under French influence. Lebanon and Syria, and the English took Palestine, Jordan, other areas. Sykes-Picot Agreement. So they traditionally have an influence with Lebanon. And they are making big attempts to try and de-escalate. And now the recent thing that we heard from them, by the way, is apparently they ditched the request for Hizbullah to move to the north of the Litani, something that was unrealistic anyway, because they didn't move over to 2006. Do you think they can move now? But anyway, Israel was saying you're going to have to move 40 miles up north, like Dream One. You're not going to go anywhere. How about you move away from the seas to where you came from? Grab your army and get away from here. It's like this clown Cameron saying today that, oh, you need to take off the leaders of Hamas and dismantle the terrorist networks in Gaza. You clown hypocrite. You pighead I'm not going to say it now, but I have to put it in. You talk about a genocidal state. Whoa. What are you talking about? Hypocrites. You have a country committing genocide. That's your priority. Dismantle the country, dismantle the army, put all of them in prison, and do us a favor and put yourself in prison as well for supporting them. Kate is saying Blinken, I'd skip this part, is pushing Saudi to sign a normalization without any Palestinian state and smearing Iran. Will Saudi abandon Palestinians to obtain nuclear? It's not as if Saudi Arabia was embracing like everything to do with Palestine now, are they? They have secluded themselves. Saudi Arabia and Egypt have shrunken themselves and their influence historically in the Arab states to next to nothing. You know, when you spoke about Egypt primarily, they had such a big role with everything that used to happen in the Arab world. Everything that happened in Egypt would resonate in other countries. Now it's like a small role. No maximized potential, no nothing. Saudi Arabia, they did something when King Faisal was there, right? They used their power with the oil embargo, and it had an effect, and he ended up being assassinated. But hey, the man tried. Yeah, rather die doing something right. So it's not like they did embrace right before or support. You know, they're friends with the Palestinian president. You know who the Palestinian president is. Do I have to keep talking about? I don't even want to mention his name. But that's who they support. You know, we call the attempts are not enough. Could you please do more to stop this genocide? Wow, as if someone's going to listen. We told you, ladies and gentlemen, Israel would have been probably deterred if it knew that someone had the power or the will to level parts of Israel as they leveled Gaza if they went ahead. Then they would have been deterred. If someone had the power to level parts of Israel like they leveled Gaza, they wouldn't have committed this. But there's no deterrence. That's why, despite all of their cowardice, they go ahead and do this barbarism, because there's no one to deter them. And guess what? Someone needs to deter them, one way or another, because that's the way you stop a genocide. They talk about owning nuclear weapons for deterrence, but they're complaining about every Arab and Muslim country getting nuclear energy. What kind of hypocrisy is this? And then they talk about liberty and democracy and freedom and human rights and equality whenever it suits them. Imdad Kazim is saying, Brother Mahmoud, no negotiation without Iran like the old days. Look, Iran is involved in every negotiation. Iran is involved fully in the picture. They've had a meeting that was most likely mediated by Switzerland. Usually the Swiss, they mediate between Iran and the United States back in January, because they know Iran has a big say in what's happening. But Iran will also tell them that these people who are allied with us, they have independence too, right? And they told them the reason for the instability in the region is this Zionist genocidal satanic death cult. What is it? Is it not obvious to some people? I mean, you must be blind, like completely blind and ignorant not to see that if you don't. They've been the reason for destabilization for all of this period. But everything has to go through Iran as well. It has to. Construct Wisdom is saying, hi Mahmoud, do you think that Netanyahu is trying to throw the IOF under the bus with regards to him letting the US charge 5 IOF units for war crimes? Seems like he's trying to avoid blame. Netanyahu will do anything to protect himself. Every single thing to protect himself. He's killing his own people to protect himself. What are we talking? He's already killing his own people to protect himself. And let's start from the beginning. And I gave this example before, I'll give it again. I'm Israel. Okay, I'll switch sides now. I'm Israel. I am a supremacist state. I believe that I'm better than the other people. My life is worth more than them and that they're subhuman, but I value my people's lives, okay? For example, unless someone starts the clip now tomorrow. But I'm worried about the Israelis, okay? You're worried about the Israelis. What are you gonna do when a group kidnapped 280? You immediately try and release them before you do anything, you stupid fool. If you're serious about the fact that you're only worried about Israelis. What did they do? You saw what they did. Orders to take down all of them. From the Israeli pilots, we were ordered to shoot everyone going back to Gaza. Israeli witness statements. It was the IDF killing us, shooting at us from tanks. People who were released from Gaza saying we were bombed throughout. And then when they were there, they were bombed when they were there and many died. 80. Is that a state that likes its people? You don't value the life of anyone. You're a death cult. That's what you are. That's why we call them a genocidal satanic death cult. They don't care about the Israeli lives. He'll sell everything, this man, for his own sake. How much damage did he bring on Israel with all of this now? PR, marketing, image, and they're, the baffling thing is they're complaining in Israel. Like you'll see reports on Israeli mainstream media, anti-Semitism on the rise in the world. They hate us. They say Israel is a terrorist organization. We need to battle anti-Semitism. Have some self-reflection, you blind, racist, ignorant fool. Have some self-reflection. Jeez. What's wrong with these people? It's like you're dealing with a psychopathic, narcissistic, lunatic maniac. They don't look in the mirror. It's like everyone's saying that about you. Oh, but you're all wrong. You hate me for who I am. Shut up and look at your actions, you stupid fool. But it's deliberately done to control the manipulated minds and further manipulate them. They have to. They have to. How can they self-reflect? They don't publish anything about what's happening in Gaza. Most of the Israeli population, they don't know what's happening in Gaza. If they're just following like mainstream media and stuff, nothing. They'll tell you they put makeup. And it's all fake and imagery. You know what they would bring is the image of destruction in Gaza. But they would believe and like the fact that 30, 40,000 people, but they don't show the images. Why? Because images are strong. When you start seeing dead babies, killed, brutally murdered babies and infants and children and women, that's... even if you're a racist, even if you're a supremacist, even if you're a maniac, it'll do something. So they don't. And he will throw the IOF under the bus. He'll throw his best mates under the bus. Look how, if you want to understand Netanyahu, look at all of his political career. He ditched almost everyone he had an alliance with. The guy, he sells the rhetoric of, you know, the Arabs and the Palestinians and this and that, racism, and brings now the most racist people on earth. He was the guy who promoted and proactively called the head of the Islamic movement in Israel, ideologically linked to the Muslim Brotherhood, by the way, but who believe in political participation in Israel, Arab, Palestinian. Oh yeah, can you make a deal? Can you come with the government? My government might fall. It didn't work with him, it worked with the other government, short-lived. But he would do anything. This is what I'm saying. It's like he'll flip and do something with Hamas tomorrow. Because he thinks about himself. He's obsessed with himself. And to be fair to Netanyahu, he has his way. He does have his way of getting himself out of trouble. He will sell it. He will sell it in a way. Do a very convincing U-turn. Man would have been an excellent salesperson, to be fair. But he does it, unfortunately, for all of the wrong things. But still, you know, he would still have some sort of, he's showing kind of as if he's against it, right? But if it was him versus leaders of the idea, of course, he'd sell them. Hey, get rid of them immediately. He doesn't care. Okay, where were we? That's construct wisdom. Follow-up, is Gvir more powerful than Netanyahu? Who pulls the strings? He is very powerful because he's holding the government together. So Benjamin Netanyahu made many things. He had many moves that solely relied on Ben Gvir's will. The way he's conducting the war, the genocide, really, the delay in it, because don't forget, you have Netanyahu here. On one side, he has Ben Gvir and Smotrich and part of the Israeli population. Let's be completely realistic here. A large chunk of the Israeli population want a bigger genocide. A big chunk of the Israeli population, they want a bigger genocide in Gaza. Ben Gvir represents part of that chunk. Him and Smotrich were telling Benjamin Netanyahu, don't negotiate. Don't even negotiate. Go into Rafah immediately and eliminate them. Don't talk to them. You don't talk to them. They're completely delusional. They'll criticize the US. They live on a different planet. Completely careless about Israel as a state, anything. They don't care. So he has a very powerful position when it comes to Netanyahu. And I think Netanyahu would love it if he could replace him. But the problem is there's no one to replace him because everyone knows Benjamin Netanyahu. However, who knows what trick he can get out of his sleeve, Benjamin Netanyahu. He's done it before, he can do it again. Mind over matter. Hi Mahmoud, what do you think of Israel's generous offer of 40-day ceasefire? It's close to what Hamas already accepted, 45 days. Obviously 40 to 45, you're talking about 5 days. It's not a big deal. It's not a deal breaker. The main thing when it comes to these negotiations and reaching a ceasefire is if Israel would confirm that they will end the war, end the genocide. So whether it's for a year, 2 years, ceasefire confirmed. Hamas want a confirmation and protections by people who don't they really trust, but confirmation, they need to be liable, right? They want more reassurance. And Israel doesn't want to give any confirmation, anything written that we will withdraw. They want to say, okay, we will get some aid in, we will get the women and children to the north, although they've done many things already. That's what I spoke about with the ceasefire, semi-ceasefire. But they won't commit to the big things, like we will end the war at some point. Or we're willing to release all of the prisoners. Hamas were asking for everyone in the beginning. Clearly, Hamas were lenient when it comes to all of the prisoners. So I think a deal that would obviously stop the genocide, prevent Israel from continuing the war, get all of the terrorist forces out of Gaza, start rebuilding, it would be obviously good and it's required. But obviously Hamas are well aware, and they're more aware than anyone really, because they're the people who started there in Gaza, they know the situation. What it would take, and they always said that they have the Palestinian national interest in mind when it comes to this, and they've proven that they're not willing to go into negotiations without having all of the basic things that people need, really. What? Freedom of movement, freedom of having food and aid, and not worrying that you will be bombed tomorrow with a 1-ton bomb. Is that a lot to request? No, but people want to sell it as a generous request. Who sells it like that? The arrogant supremacist who doesn't view the Palestinian life as worthy. That's who. Same people who will tell you Israel is entitled to defend itself, but you can't threaten them. Why? Do you value their life more, you hypocrite clown? But that's the situation you live in. But no, it's not the case. And Hamas is showing them that's not the case. No. Palestinian people deserve dignity. They deserve their rights. And we're sticking to our guns. Simple. Catherine is saying, why is no one investigating what's happening to Palestinians in Israeli jails, beatings, and all kinds of barbaric cruelty? Red Cross or someone should be able to go in and investigate. Look, absolutely, they should. But obviously Israel doesn't allow them. But there are Palestinian organizations that are only dealing with the prisoners, and they have connections, they have representatives inside the Israeli prisons who constantly give them feedback about the situation. A lot comes out from people who are released, of course. We get a lot of information. Horrific, I mean, horror stories, really. But there are organizations who really solely focus on it and reveal so much information. A traveler is asking a nice question. Are we supposed to believe that Ben Gvir and Shas minister's parents in a car accident with a week is a coincidence? And also, yeah, and also, Benny Gantz had an accident. Accidents. 3 accidents related to ministers. 2 directly impacted the ministers. One of them affected. Could be a really a special coincidence, like a massive coincidence. All of a sudden, ministers get hit left, right, and center. Could be. Like Ben Gvir, they say that he always crosses the red light, sorry. And people criticize him for it, being the Minister of National Security, crossing the red line 24/7, red light. All of a sudden he has a very bad accident. He saw what happened to the car. He got his ribs broken. And now he's in hospital and feeling sorry for himself. He's saying, I can't believe some people wish me death. Don't you understand that you're serving your enemy? How can you wish me death? He's been working on killing people and surprised that people wish him not well. Okay, let's see if we have anything else. By Dr. Adnan Rashid, I have a question. If Hamas agrees on 42 days week ceasefire and releases all hostages, then what will happen after 6 weeks? Israeli army will launch an all-out war against Gaza. Well, it's stages, so they're not going to release everyone in the first stage. They have 3 stages. The first stage will include a couple of dozens of Israelis who are not to the top in the military. Some of the civilians, then female soldiers then commandos. Obviously, they're going to have to keep leverage. Don't you think they know that? And the prospect of an all-out war breaking afterwards, they're well aware of it. That's why they want guarantees and reassurances. And that's why they still haven't gone with a deal. So all of the deals that were proposed and both sides spoke about included 3 stages. First stage, primarily complete ceasefire, withdrawal from Gaza, Israeli withdrawal from Gaza, releasing a certain number of prisoners, getting the aid in, allowing temporary housing. Before you enter the second stage, a confirmation that the genocide will completely end. There won't be another war for a period of time. Could be 1 year, 2 or 5, but a solid period without anything. Then you have the third and final phase, which will include something to do with reconstruction of Gaza, with everything, and obviously the aid and medicine, everything will be beforehand. And then the final stage will be the last prisoners. So the last of the Israeli prisoners and the last of what they would agree on releasing from the Palestinian prisoners, especially with heavy sentences. And there's a number for each prisoner, by the way. So one of the last reports said that for every 1 Israeli female soldier, I think you would release about 30 Palestinians with heavy sentences, like life sentences. And usually what would happen then is that Hamas will send a list to Israel with, let's say the agreement is to release 300 or 400, for example. Hamas will send a list to Israel with 600 names, and they would be flexible on who to release. Because there are some people, if they would be released, it would be a massive shock for Israel. And I'm not sure they're going to be released, to be fair. Ari Magoo saying, hi Mahmoud, more countries accepting Palestine as a state, hopeful as to this final reality by those still asleep. Thank you, brother. Look, I'm not hopeful with a 2-state solution. There's nothing hopeful about it, to be fair. Because the 2-state solution, if the solution is coming and promoted and pushed by the same countries that supported this genocide, then you need to suspect it. You need to immediately suspect it. If it's the US, the UK, if it's France, Germany promoting it, then forget about it. And there's a big difference between what the Palestinian people would agree to in terms of a temporary solution or a 2-state solution and what others view. The others side with Israel, with everything. Because they're siding with them now. Why should they switch sides tomorrow? How can you agree on a 2-state solution while simultaneously imposing your will on one side? How can this clown of a foreign minister here, Cameron, pighead, say that, oh, Hamas, the people who were irresponsible for the 7th of October shouldn't be in Gaza? You should be saying the people who were in charge of the genocide shouldn't be in Israel. This is what you should be saying. Not the people under occupation resisting, you fool. So you don't trust what these people have to say. And that's why, give us a break and end it all with a 1-state, simple. How long do we have to talk about it? It's so straightforward. Jordan River to the sea, from north to the south, 1 state, equal rights, Israelis, Palestinians, feel free, democracy, historical right. That's it. But now they want to keep the regime of supremacy. Why? Because it serves their empire. It serves their genocidal empire, and it keeps a conflict between Arab nations, Arab nations in Israel, Muslim nations in Israel. Keeps problems going. Gives them the upper hand. Typical. We've done this in many other places. Muslim poet, Sacred Inclinations, saying the Africans word apartheid doesn't fit the evil of the Zionists. Indeed, South Africa speakers say that what Zionists do is worse. So what is the Hebrew Yiddish word? Well, they say apartheid. In Arabic, you say نظام الفصل العنصري. So the regime of racial segregation, or racial split or division. But absolutely, yeah, definitely. I think it's worse than South Africa. If you go to the West Bank, if you see what's happening in Gaza, it's worse. So I agree with that notion. And many people from South Africa said that, by the way. They get offended almost. And again, it's a very specific scenario. You can't say that what worked in South Africa, for example, will work in Palestine. Two different situations, really. When it comes to, you have very big similarities. You have the element of racism, of supremacy, segregation, and all of that. But Palestine has its own attributes. FP, if there is a one-state solution, will Israel stop new settlers from coming to Israel? Seeing that there will not be enough land left for everyone if it continues. You see this notion, that's FP saying that. The notion that there is not enough land is completely not true, by the way. There is more than enough land in Palestine, this small land, for tens of millions. There's more than enough land. That's number one. Number two, that's not to say that everyone who was expelled would want to return. That's number two. Number three, the decision will not be exclusive to the Israelis if you would have equality. Number four, some people would be petrified and flee with the immediate second that they know there's going to be one state solution. And who would these people be? The core, hardcore Zionist supremacists. They wouldn't be able to. Some people would be able to bite the bullet, and the Israelis who already lived in mixed cities, for example, and mingle with Palestinians and whatever, and just want to live a normal life, they'll happily stay there. Why? Because to them it doesn't matter. As long as you have equality and everyone's used to them, they'd be relieved. So and then that would take time, obviously. But the problem is it's not being pushed. That's the main problem. Everyone's talking two-state. Two-state will only deepen it. It will delay a bigger clash. That's what it'll do. If you'll say two states, but anyone who was expelled from what now is called Israel, they can't come back to that land. Who are you to tell me that? When Israel's bringing people that actually have no link to Israel just because they call themselves Jewish. Right? So no, they don't have a right to do that. You need to have both historical and contemporary rights for it to work and be long-lasting and bulletproof. This is what we're after, something long-lasting and bulletproof, and end the conflict. You won't end the conflict by continuing the segregation. You can't have that. And you can't have this split of this can be an Israeli, that can be a Palestinian, and like the sectarian division in Lebanon, for example. Prime minister needs to be this sect, president needs to be that sect. Awful. What you need is an open rule of the people. Simple. Alisa Isovich is saying, after everything that happened, will it really matter if some Arab countries sign a peace treaty with Israel? Resistance will keep doing its thing till they sign a treaty anyways. Look, the Palestinian resistance, they have their agenda. What's their agenda? They're calling themselves the resistance. A resistance to what? To occupation and segregation and genocide and supremacy and racism. That's the resistance. And so long as that exists, there will be resistance. Simple. But the resistance is a means, it's not a goal. So if these people, if some Arab country sign a peace treaty and you have this municipality of a state that doesn't have any sovereignty, doesn't have a real army, doesn't have independence, doesn't follow the will of its people and implements everything as it should, then there will be resistance. Why? Because I don't have the right that Israel has. Israel has the right to make deals with every country in the world and get support from the biggest superpower to commit genocide. And I'm not entitled to have treaties with whichever country I want. All of it is toxic. The thing here is deal with the root cause of the problem, deal with the toxicity, with the virus, with the illness. What is that? The regime of violent supremacy, of ethnocracy. What B'Tselem called a regime of Jewish supremacy. That's what Israel is implementing, a regime of Jewish supremacy. We know that they act like they speak on behalf of Judaism. We know that they don't represent the Jewish people. That's what they do. Tell you, this is the land of the Jewish people. This is the nation of the Jewish people. They have a law, the nation state law. This land belongs to the Jewish people. You cannot have that. You can have a state that has equality for everyone, regardless of their religion or their race. You can't accept in the 21st century for a country to be based on ethnic, religious, or racial supremacy. And Israel exists on that, and has existed on that, and has never shown anyone that it can exist on anything but that. So you need to deal with that to solve the problem. Wendy saying Palestinian resistance is the same as the French underground of World War II, or any nation that defended their lands during invasion. Like you'll have the British government here telling you about Hamas this, Hamas that, demonize them, label them. It's like saying the English didn't have a right to defend themselves against the Nazis, for example. All of the leadership of World War II, then change the narrative, please, so you can be consistent. All of you were terrorists before then. And Hitler had the right to invade you. Is that what you're saying? This is the narrative. By legitimizing what Israel is doing, it's as if you're saying Hitler was right. And you say that you don't believe he was right, do you? There's a lot of silencing when it comes to that period and, things you can't cross or talk about. Otherwise, zip. But you need to open all of the books now. And you need to be morally consistent. Otherwise, you have no argument. Don't talk. Let's see if we have any more questions before we wrap up quickly. One question by Akuma, and we'll finish it with that one. That was the last one. How big, that's Akuma Ali, how big of a surprise was it when Iran retaliated? It was quite a big surprise. Like, the fact that Iran retaliated directly was a surprise for me. I didn't think that they would retaliate like that. I thought that they would use one of the resistance movements, or Ansarullah or Hizbullah or Iraq, and not attract anything to, but clearly they surprised me. So if they surprised me, they definitely surprised Israel. Trust me. They were taken aback by it. They were shocked. They were petrified. And Iran made new rules to the game and created a new level of deterrence, put Israel in its place, made it realize how weak and vulnerable it is, because they were embarrassed by Gaza. Come on. Well, what did they do in Gaza apart from cause destruction and havoc against the civilian infrastructure and kill innocent civilians? The child murdering forces, child murderers, women killers, hospital bombers. What? Hamas is still there fighting you. And Iran told them that if Hamas can do that, then imagine what I can do for you. And he was just a taster. He was just imagine they do more than that. And we'll wrap it there. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining me. I will hopefully be with you tomorrow. I had another video published just a couple of minutes ago regarding the Israeli kidnapped families message to Yahya Sinwar. Have a look at that video. Apart from that, enjoy the rest of your week. Thank you so much for participating. Again, apologies if I missed anything. Some things are not highlighted, even though I do my best. But I'm here anyway regularly. So thank you so much for everyone joining me, all of the members, all of the moderators, everyone regular, everyone new. And I will see you soon in the next video. Take care.